The Supreme Court is determining right now whether conversion therapy is legal or not. Let's get into it.
Conversion therapy. Have you heard of conversion therapy? Conversion therapy is, if you hear the liberals talk about it, it's when you hook like the poor trans 5-year-olds up to electrodes and torture them or something. That's what, I don't know, that's the image they paint. That doesn't...
Stop it. Get some
Before
help.
we get too far, my name is Casey. I have been a therapist for more than 13 years and have seen quite conveniently that all therapy at some level is conversion therapy. It just matters which ideology are you allowed to and not allowed to convert to. Let's get into it. Before you do, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll tell you a little bit about this case and whether or not conversion therapy should be allowed.
But conversion therapy, so-called, is when a person who is confused about his sex or has unwanted sexual urges or desires or behaviors goes to a therapist and says, hey, I have distress because of all these sexual behaviors and urges and desires. Can you help me? And the therapist says, yes, I can try to help you. That's conversion therapy.
Let's say they told me they didn't want to be trans, but they already were on their way there. If I told them this is how you might be able to work your way out of it, that could be considered illegal, and I could go before the board because of that. However, if they say they wanted to transition, and I forthrightly went along with that and gave them all of the ways that they diagnoses and the ways that they might accomplish that, that is legal. So it's not necessarily about whether conversion therapy is legal or not. It's about which ideology your patient is desiring to convert to. Now, the case that's being brought in Colorado is with a Christian counselor who said she wants to help people who are trying to either transition out of that lifestyle or want to stay out of it altogether, or they find themselves in it and they want to get out, and that has been deemed illegal by the state, or she could be subject to license, fines, and other issues if she tells them, yeah, this is the way to not do that.
A woman. Or I really want to, go date 3 fellas and a billy goat. I want to do that. And the therapist says, oh yeah, I'll help you think about that. I'll help you resolve that identity. That's totally fine. The law says that's awesome. But if the guy who thinks he's a woman, or the guy with three guys and a billy goat or whatever says, hey, I really actually, I think this is bad, and I'd rather have a more normal kind of sexual view and desires and behaviors, and the therapist says, okay, I'll try to help you do that. That's illegal.
The psychology industry has very deliberately made it seem like conversion therapy is this evil practice where you chain someone to a bed and then you whip them until they say that they're no longer the person that they came in as. Whereas all ideological framework that a therapist brings to the table is of the utmost importance, because if they think that a flourishing life looks like one where you might have traditional family values, or there might be, the pride and dignity that comes from hard work or other things like that, then that is generally the direction that they will help you point toward if they want to help you have a flourishing life. And so, even though the therapist is supposed to be supremely neutral and just go along with what the patient or client says that they want to accomplish in their life, they are still going to bring their logical framework to bear and their ideology to bear on what that flourishing looks like. So while we're told nowadays that all therapy should just affirm what the patient is going through and then perhaps diagnose you with some disorder, the fact is that a disordered life, leads to anxiety. It leads to depression. And so if I want to help you solve for those depressions and other mental health symptoms that you're experiencing or signs that you're experiencing, I might need to help you reorder your life. And I think that the strategies to do that do come with an ideological framework. It's impossible to escape within the therapeutic relationship. And anybody who says that they do not do that is, quite frankly, not being forthright.
Because it's not that conversion therapy is illegal and other kinds of therapy are illegal. It's that some kinds of conversion therapy are illegal, but not the other kinds. The ones that say, hey, you should go be gay or trans, that's great. That's fine. It's only the other way. So at a deeper level, what this gets to is the fact that all therapy of all kinds, not just sex kinds, like, of all kinds. All therapy is conversion therapy. I have a certain way of thinking that is causing me distress, and I want to think in another kind of way. I have a certain kind of behavior. I want to behave in another kind of way. I have a certain kind of identity. I want to have a different kind of identity. And the entire purpose of therapy, the raison d'etre of the entire industry, is to convert people.
The fact is that most therapists don't know this to begin with. And even though they might be able to identify the disorders that you are going through and give you little mental tricks to try to reorder some of those things or not suffer as much with the symptoms as you ordinarily would coming in, they do not necessarily, unless they're a good therapist, point you toward a flourishing life. They help you deal with symptoms. And quite frankly, the therapeutic industry, like much of the rest of the medical industrial complex, has a vested interest in you maintaining your mental unrest or your mental illness. But most, if not all, mild to moderate cases of mental illness are able to go into remission and are not chronic. And if they tell you anything other than that, if they medicate you as a prerequisite for you being a part of their mental health practice, they are probably just juicing the system and keeping themselves fed at your expense.
So this licensed therapist and evangelical Protestant, Kaylee Childs, says that she wants to help religious teens who struggle with their sexual orientation and gender. And she wants to help them to live a life consistent with their faith. But she has to turn these teens away because it's illegal according to state law.
If a client comes into my office and says that they want to be something that I don't think is going to be healthy and good and right and true and beautiful for them, what I will more than likely do, if that's what they truly are coming to counseling to have the strength and encouragement to do, I count on the God who created them and their circumstances to help them see the folly through natural law and cause and effect of behaviors. Now, I would not promote a life of sin and destruction that they might, actually think that they want, unless I believe that it will give them the consequences necessary, that they will change, that they will act in their own self-interest and turn from those behaviors. So it's a tricky balance. I won't tell them overtly, no, you shouldn't be pursuing this lifestyle, but I will believe and know that the God who created this and the creation itself will provide the circumstances to help people know what's true, even if they don't see it when they come into the office.
I say, hold up, wait a minute. Something ain't right.
She says she doesn't want to convert them, in the sense she's not forcing anything on them, but for teens who want to, quote, reduce or eliminate unwanted sexual attractions, change sexual behaviors, or grow in the experience of harmony with one's physical body, she's not allowed to do that. I don't want to have to, I want to kind of change the sexual fantasies that are bothering me. Well, that's really no different from porn. It's not all that different from a porn addiction. There, I think it's pretty clear that the therapist is not allowed to intervene.
Will conversion therapy be all of a sudden legal? We'll find out here in the next few weeks. And it does not necessarily mean that we're strapping people to a gurney and lashing them until they tell us that they've changed their life. It does simply mean that we are converting people through therapy. It's just we're only allowed to convert them leftward. If we convert them rightward, then you could be subject to fines and possibly losing your license and your job. We'll see what happens. God bless.